Alright, welcome back to part 2. So, as you can guess, the motherboard has been swapped out already. The new CPU cooler has been put in. Of course, it's the same model and brand as the old one. It's the Cooler Master. Now, you might be asking why I have that covered with a piece of paper right now. Well, we'll talk about that in a bit. But it's just to make a point here. So, when we left off the last time, we had this stuff, and I pulled it out, and I have it plugged into some adapters here, and we'll talk about that in a bit. I pulled it out so we could have a quick look at this. This, of course, was the old stuff that was running it, and remember I showed the example of that, how it's just kind of hard to work with. You have to push these buttons and go to different effects, and then see there right there, it's blinking, and blah, blah, blah. Let me unplug that real fast. Hold on here. Alright. Now, the reason I wanted to unplug that, because I didn't really want to power that for too long. It showed the point I wanted to make about using this again, and this is the Molex, and then this is all this is just a little, RGB generator. But normally you wouldn't want to run it on something like this, and the reason is because this is a 5 volt. That's what we're going to cover next before we get to the board and the other stuff going on there. But this is a 5 volt RGB strip, and when you run into this stuff online, it can be a little confusing, and I want you to get this through your head before you even buy it. The differences between addressable RGB and RGB. Addressable RGB also runs on 5 volt. This particular 5 volt comes from a little kit like this, and you can probably find these kits on eBay or Amazon, or probably Newegg, I think, probably carries some of them too. And what it is, it's a little meter of RGB, another little controller. See that right there? It's just like our 4-pin over here, just like the Cooler Master stuff. It's a 4-pin, but it runs on 5 volt. I don't know if that'll focus in there so you can see that. And it's made to run like on little USB phone chargers and stuff like that if you want to. And what they usually sell these for is, I guess they advertise them like, like put it on the back of your big screen TV and make everything RGB. Those are for cheap builds, and that's something if you want to do to put RGB in your computer, you can do as well. And you can have a little remote control. Of course, you'll have to find a little place to mount it. Mount this little thing somewhere. But that's usually not too hard. You could, something like this case, you could probably mount it like right here, because there's a window here anyways, and then you can control it with the remote control. But we'll save a project like this for another time. We'll put this back in there in the pile of crap that I got back there. And so back to these. And remember in the last video we started out with these, and I just wanted to give you a better look at them. You can see where the Allen wrenches would go in there to loosen those up. And you just loosen these up and they separate. And then you just take a regular RAM module. I don't remember what this is. I guess I'll tear it apart to find out. And you put them in there, tighten them down, and they go on there. Let me unplug this one too. I don't like to leave this stuff running all the time. You see I have it running on a SATA to Molex adapter, and it's powering from Kayla's computer. So let's not piggyback some juice from hers much longer here. We'll unplug this. Hold on. That's the disadvantage of doing shit live. Well, not live, but one-handed. You got one hand holding the camera and the other hand trying to point to stuff. But anyways, so in the last video we talked about the splitters on these. And in this one I ran a splitter. And the reason is because the splitters will only carry 3 fan in each one on the RGB. Remember how I showed you it was like a 3-way splitter? And so we needed a 4th, because what I did is I added a 4th exhausting fan up on top there. Okay? So in order to do that, what I did is I just took the other 3-way splitter that came in the new kit for the radiator, and I just added that on there, which let me split that way and add that, and it also left me with one more. So this was what I was trying to get to, the point I was trying to get to originally when I started out, and it leads me inside the case, and that is this header right here, this spare header, that you could put a 50/50 RGB in there. And like I said before, make sure it's 12 volt, because if you don't, it can burn up. You know, it won't right away like you seen when I plugged that one in, because I knew what would happen, because I've done it before. I have a old power supply that I experiment with to see what happens and what have you. So I knew what would happen there, and if I would have burned it out, well, I guess I owe Kayla a new motherboard. Ha, right? But anyways, it came out okay. Anyways, back to this. So next I want to talk about how many more RGBs can you add on there. I mean, obviously you can't just keep putting splitter after splitter, and you might have a bigger case that's got, you know, 5-6 places to put fans, and maybe you want to fill every fan up and you want to run it from your motherboard. Excuse me. So one thing you could do to, you know, add more color is, of course, add more fans, add more lights, add more RGB. But another thing you can do, and I want you to consider, is paint the wall of your case. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because it takes, you know, more energy, of course, and then more fans and more brightness and more bulbs and more LEDs to get all this color going through there, if that's what you're looking for. But then on the other side, it also just takes a little bit of light reflecting, and that's what this little white piece of paper is in there for, so that you can see the reflecting. Now if we go back to the side there where you no longer have the fan in your view, it's no longer the fan's reflection that you, or the direct light from the fan that you see, but rather it's reflection. And you'll see that in my build where I painted it white, how it reflects off, and it just gives the whole inside a lot brighter look. And I actually have the bulbs in there set down pretty low. Painting your case, I mean, you don't have to do this. This is just a kind of a tip if you want looking to do something to really show off the color. Painting the case isn't that hard. You'll want to sand it down with some probably 320 grit sandpaper. Sand every area that you're going to sand. A case like this would be really easy to do because it's, you know, plastic here, plastic there. Plus you got the side panels. You just take all that off and then completely gut it out, mask off the areas that you don't want painted, and have at it. You know, I mean, that's what we got over here. That's exactly what I did, and you'll see that in the Vanguard V6 RGB build that I did, because I have some pictures there, and it's just a can of Krylon. You know, there's a little paint technique to it, I guess, so you don't get some runs and crap, but that's something to consider to brighten up the case a little bit. Now, close out. Oop. I knew that was going to happen. Shit. All right. So now we can talk about the 8-pin headers on the motherboard. Finally, huh? Okay. Nowadays you see a lot of these motherboards, and all the manufacturers, you know, MSA, ASRock, Gigabyte, Asus, will advertise RGB 12-pin or 4-pin, excuse me, on their boards. Some will say RGB addressable. I think the regular RGB is anything, if anything, it's a gimmick when it comes to RGB on a motherboard. It does have its uses, like in this case, we're gonna actually take, you know, full advantage of that, and we're gonna put it to use on this one. But it isn't really utilized in the cases that you see, like, you know, with like the Pong effect that I started the intro video with, or even the cheap Chinese stuff, you know. like these Chinese kits you get, it doesn't even utilize that on the motherboard. So you're not going to be able to control it there. To control it there, you know, you're going to need a separate controller, and the link's in the Builds GG website here on the description on this build. And that I want to get into, but I'm not going to get into because I'm actually going to save that for a different build when I get into using controllers instead of using the 4-pin RGB header. Now, one of the things about the RGB headers, they're limited. You can see, you know, all the different colors going on here right now, and we can go back to the screen, and we can now control this with the software. We don't have that, you know, stupid little dongle thing there for the Cooler Master stuff. And you right here, the ASRock doesn't have nothing that's really, you know, fancy, and actually neither does MSI, or I mean Asus isn't too bad with their interface. I think Asus's stuff is better with the addressable stuff, and again, I'm not gonna cover the addressable right now. I'm just gonna cover basic 4-pin RGB. And so as you can see, it's doing a random color here. And this software, there's really not much you can do. The top part here, there's nothing. It's just kind of RGB LED header. Now, I'm sure that's probably would change if there's other features on the board. Style, this just changes basically the effect we're seeing. Random is what's going to get you the colors. Music is going to, I think, synchronize to the music like maybe a video or something that you're watching. I haven't tested that out yet, but we're not going to. I'm just going to give you a brief rundown of what this stuff is. Static means a static color. And so I set this to red, and if we look right here, it's red. Everything's red. Now, that's kind of the limits of the RGB. You can't make it do any cool effects. You could do a breathing effect, but you can't really change the color, but you can change the speed. See that? I mean, I guess you could fiddle around with it and kind of get something cool out of it. Strobe effect. Again, you know, you can change the color to whatever you want. Make this like a green one. Go up here. You know, whatever you want. But other than that, it's kind of limited. You can't make it do flashy effects from here to there, from one side of the case to the other. Here it's just cycling an RGB color, and here again you can decrease the speed, increase the speed, and it's just basically red, green, blue, red, green, blue. And this is really going to be based on what the manufacturer puts in their BIOS software. This can actually be ran in the BIOS too, some basic functions. The speed adjust can't really, well, it can, but it's kind of hard to work with. Here you get more of an interface to play with. And there's one thing that's nice about this. So I'm going to set this to static for a second, and for our color, I'm going to set it to white to make a point here. So it's white. And we shut the program down, and we're going to shut the computer off. And I want to show you this. Okay. So it ended off at white. And the nice thing about this board in particular is whatever you left off at, that's what it's going to start up at. So you see it's starting up right there, white. So that's kind of a good feature. You know, that's one of the advantages of not using that little controller board down there. You know, if you have it set to something, it's there and it stays there, and that's the way it's going to be. You can change it by your mood. Now, excuse me. And if you want, God, my throat today, yesterday too. I think it's the weather. I was buried in today. It's horrible. But anyways, back to the random effect. which of course will change the colors on it, and of course you can change the speed on that it does that. So that's something else that you can set. Let's see, we'll set the speed up a little high, and then we'll do that, close this up, and shut down again. Okay. Alright, fan stopped. Okay, boot it up again. And again, it's starting out where we left off. And that's probably about it for what you're going to get out of an RGB header on a motherboard. So that's why I say it's kind of gimmicky. It's not too flashy unless you count that as flashy. But it's what it does. And the Cooler Master stuff is probably the most compatible stuff you're going to find, especially when you're doing an AMD, because like the AMD Prism coolers, that's actually made by Cooler Master, so isn't the Wraith, Spire, and the all those other ones. Those are Cooler Master products. And the Prism one that has the RGB header on there, it's made for well, stuff like this, and that's why it's marked AMD. You know, it's essentially Cooler Master. So this is why Cooler Master is good to go with if you're just starting with RGB. If you want something different, like I said, I'm gonna do some other videos, don't know whenever. I got builds coming up, other stuff covering other kinds of RGB, and I will show those. But let's talk about this upgrade now, hey? So you don't see the RGB memory in yet, and I'm waiting on that, and I suppose that'll just be like in the pictures update on the Builds GG website when you see that. But it's running the test memory right now. We got the Ryzen in there, the 2600, running like a champ. I still got to do some cable management on this, and that'll finish up. And then when I get the RGB memory in there, it'll be just like mine. You know, she'll be able to control that with software. The power supply, I want to talk about that a little bit. It's the Seasonic, what is it, M12-2 or something like that. And the reason I went with it is because it's modular. I like going with the modular stuff anymore. The reason is because it's a lot easier to tuck wires in. If you look at the power supply, it actually only has 2 cables running out besides the regular power. You got the cable for the 8-pin on the motherboard and a cable for the SATA. And that's really why I'm using an adapter like this. And on the stuff that this other crap is going to go into, you can see that it's got the Molex on there. And I don't really like adding a Molex to something. I would much rather take it and get a SATA to Molex adapter and then take anything that runs Molex into that. So it's great for tucking wires that way, you know, and it doesn't look as sloppy, and you can run less cables on the power supply. But anyways, the benefit of having this power supply as modular is you're going to find it in the cablemods.com list of power supplies that you can buy custom cables for. So that's one thing we could maybe do to this in the future, clean up this mess a little bit, get some custom SATA cables for this, ones that are measured out exactly at the length we need for exactly what we need. Another thing we could do is eliminate a drive or two. I actually added a drive in this one. I added a 2 terabyte drive for storage for her to back up stuff. She's still using her old hard drive. We decided I was just going to transfer it over and then reactivate everything, but I decided, you know what, let's just do a clean install. So I deactivated Photoshop on the old board, and I haven't installed the Creative Cloud yet on this one, but I will. Still got some finishing up to do on it. I got to do all the Dad stuff that Dad likes to have done on there, like, you know, Team Viewer and other monitoring stuff to help her out, and a little more tucking. And I don't know, I think that'll be just about it for it. And I might post another video of everything when it's completed. We'll see, but I think Kayla's getting a little eager to get her computer back. And I should really get going on this now. If only the damn FedEx would hurry up with their RGB memory. We'll get this wrapped up and call it a day. Alright, thanks for watching, guys.